The Weed of the Week brought to you by Show Me Shortline and the Richiger Flexigrain Storage System.
Affordable, flexible storage is here. Richiger R-Series bagger and unloader from Show Me Shortline. Maximize your profits with adaptable storage and management. Reduce storage costs and gain a competitive edge by selling at the right time. Visit us online at showmeshortline.com.
Our Weed of the Week today is Curly Dock, and it's one of the primary noxious weeds.
What? How can it be a primary noxious weed? I hardly ever hear about curly dock. I've never had a farmer call me up and say, Brian, I've got the worst weed ever. I've got curly dock. How am I going to kill it? It's no primary noxious weed.
Oh, Brian, it is a very tough weed, and it's one that if you let it go, it can really destroy the value of your land because it can displace grass and other desirable plants and really take over.
Yeah, but the main reason why is this, and we're joking around here, it is a primary noxious weed in part because it's a perennial. And whenever you have a perennial weed, you've got major issues because you can't just go out there and get a little herbicide on it or do a little bit of tillage. That generally doesn't cut it with perennial weeds.
Okay, well here's what we're talking about exactly. With curly dock, it is a primary noxious weed, it is a perennial weed, yet the recipe that most farmers and ranchers use to control it is, well, I'll just throw some 2,4-D in the sprayer, I could burn off everything I see above the ground, and it won't come back for a few weeks. That's a good deal. I can take care of curly dock.
What are you gonna do instead?
Well, here's what you do. You need to use some product that will get down into the root system. For example, one product that's commonly used is called Grazon. It's a Tordon plus some 2,4-D in a premix. That way you have some Tordon that's going to move down through that plant and get into that root system and hopefully kill it for good, depending on the rate that you're using, the amount of pressure that you have out there, and how big a root system that curly dock plant has.
Now with Roundup, you can certainly use Roundup too. Roundup can get all the way in through the root. Just make sure you use the highest labeled rate, because remember, it's a perennial. We've got to have a lot of power to get all the way through the extensive root system and kill that plant entirely.
Well, curly dock, one of the places that it tends to grow in fields is areas that are poorly drained. It's one of those things on your farm you say, well, I don't know if I want to install drainage tile even though I need it in that particular portion of the field. It really does make a difference. When you don't manage one aspect of your farm, all of a sudden other things, like some of these perennial primary noxious weeds like curly dock, can take a foothold just because there's been some management concerns in that particular zone in your field.
Yep, so in other words, raise a great crop that will shade that curly dock out and you shouldn't have a big issue. One other product I was going to mention real quick is Pursuit. That's not too bad when you start talking about crops like peas and soybeans where you don't have a lot of other good options.
While curly dock is a primary noxious weed, it's one of the toughest weeds we fight. Get it under control on your farm.
That's it for our Weed of the Week, but stick around because Iron Talk is coming up next.